Hurling podcast. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm on my own tonight. My partner in crime, Dave, has gone off sorting out his hamstrings before the big game against Cratloe for Éire Óg. We're brought to you tonight by Bourke Sports. As you can see here, they've sorted us out with some class tops. They're our new sponsors on the podcast. If you look down here on YouTube, you'll see how to get in contact with them, www.bourkesports.ie, and the contact details for their rep, Norma, are there as well, norma.clancy@bourkesports.ie. They obviously make the gear for Tip Camogie, so they're big supporters of Camogie, support Barnsley as well, the Munster Club champions. And we're delighted to have them aboard as our sponsors. We have a great show tonight. We're going to start off with Enigma of the game, Breed Mac, the Clare PRO. And then we have Westmeath GA royalty on in the Grevilles. So let's not wait any longer. Let's get them in. So I'm delighted to have one of the characters of the game, according to the Clare players I've spoken to. We've never met before, but I still feel like I know you for some reason. Clare PRO, Breed Mac, you're very welcome to the podcast for the first and hopefully not the last time. How are you doing?
I'm good, Adrian. Thanks for having me on.
Not at all. Look, I suppose this page was set up to promote the game and give players the platform they deserve. But look, you're well ahead of the game there with that in Clare. The coverage you give is absolutely unbelievable. So fair play to you. But you have a bit of an event going at the moment. So for anyone who doesn't know what's going on, what exactly are you up to? How did it come about? And what are you trying to do?
We're doing a fundraiser. It's a walk, Clare Camogie to Croker and back. So we have our county grounds. I'm actually here in the meeting room at Father McNamara Park this evening. And we did some work on our pitch during lockdown, resurfaced the pitch, started work on a training pitch, scoreboard, all that done, changed around fencing and stuff. So we have come up with a few now because the kitty is running low. Can't do a normal fundraiser, simple as. And during lockdown, I suppose, having been extremely involved and active, matches every weekend, a few meetings a week, and then to go to nothing. Well, first we the pure novelty, feet up, cup of coffee in the hand, flicking through the channels there. Oh God, could get used to this. 3 days later, cabin fever. So I took to the roads, and our senior panel had done a fundraiser the first week of May. They were raising funds for Cancer Ireland, for Jigsaw, and for Staunch and Clore, and they were clocking their cumulative kilometres. So because I was helping them with the social media side, I was up and out and doing it with them. But I kept clocking the kilometres, and then Orla Duggan's dad happened to ring me the June bank holiday weekend and wanted to know what was I doing to keep myself occupied. So I said, well, I'm actually walking the roads here, Mike. And he said, you should do that as a fundraiser for the county board. So I told him, no, it ain't happening, dude. Forget about it. Don't mention that to anyone else. But then the chairman, Joe Donnell, rang me 3 days later and he said, we're going to need to do a fundraiser. So I said, Joe, I'll ring you tonight at 8 o'clock and I'll have the fundraiser organised. And Joe said,
simple as that.
No, we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it. And I said, no, we don't. I'll talk to you later. So I rang Joe back that night and we put together a committee of Ciara Grogan, Chloe Morey, Anne-Marie McGann, Mary McMahon and Joe. And we teased it and we tweaked it from what Mike had suggested about walking to Dublin, and we added in, we do the journey home as well, and I'm the one doing the walking. So virtually we're walking to Dublin, but I'm actually doing the walking here in Clare. So it'll be 15 kilometres a day. And the first part in the morning before I go to work will be done at home, a few kilometres then at lunchtime, and then in the evening I'll visit each one of our 26 clubs and we'll do a little bit of walking.
Brilliant. And if people want to donate and give you a helping hand along the way, Breed, how can they do it?
It's GoFundMe. It's the easiest way, and I think everyone has seen the benefits of online fundraising during the last 4 months. What some clubs have raised has just been phenomenal to help charities and the like. And I know people might think, well, you're going down the road of getting it for yourselves, Breed, but we're doing this for the benefit of the guts of 4,000 camogie players here in the county. So we are. So every step will be for them, and every kilometre walked will be for them, and every euro that goes into the GoFundMe. The GoFundMe can be accessed through our Instagram page, our Twitter account, our Facebook, and I think everyone knows that I am kind of game for a laugh, so log on there and just have a look at the videos that are going up, because there's some that are a little bit on the funny side.
Yeah, I see Rory Hickey getting involved there as well, so that's a sign of things to come. So, Breed, that's brilliant. Best of luck with it, and we'll share all the details on our social media page as well. So for anyone that wants to donate, get on to Clare Camogie on Twitter, on Instagram. Give the lads a dig out. It's for a good cause. It's for Camogie. And Breed, thanks very much for joining us, and best of luck with it.
Thanks a million for having me. Thanks, Adrian.
So Breed is gone, and what a character she is. We're delighted to be joined by the Grevilles. I suppose it's fair to say you're one of Westmeath's most famous sporting families. Obviously, doing a little bit of research into you there. Your dad Sean was a well-known goalkeeper at Westmeath for years. Was a replacement all-star. Of course, last year Robbie, Gary, and Paul played in the Westmeath team. They got promoted to Division 1 for the first time in 30 years. Johnny, you were a selector on that, obviously. Pam, you won the intermediate. Johnny was the manager. And somewhere along the line, you have an older sister as well that played for Leinster in Ireland in Camogie as well. And sure, Johnny was probably the manager of that as well. So it's real Westmeath sporting loyalty. So, Johnny, you're saying there you're involved with Falls this year and the Camogie. So you've just the two teams this year. So you've reduced your workload a bit.
Yeah, I know it is. It's nice actually, to be honest. Plenty of people around the house, so it'd be great. I know, enjoying the project up in Dublin. I was saying to you just before we started there off there, we were championship last night now, so they're a great bunch, and like the club is steeped in history. You know, they're one of their founding fathers. You know, was steep right back, 120 years ago. So it's one of the oldest clubs in Dublin, and they have the most senior championships in Dublin as well. So there's loads of history there. And they have Tom Ryan as well from the Director General is the treasurer of the club, So, and our hero, I suppose you want to call him, Dr. Tony Houlihan is involved, from moving things. So he's involved in the club as well. So, so there's loads of really good people up there, really enjoying it, and it's something different from people away from managing the brothers and sisters. You
can create a new identity for yourself above and down there.
Just one of them want to transfer up or whatever,
That's it. And look, geez, I suppose I have to say, I'll probably embarrass you now, but like you're definitely the coach I've learned the most off of in my time. It's always great when you can go in and learn off someone. So I have to put that on the record. It will embarrass you early doors, but you definitely took me from being, I think, I suppose, a naive enough lad starting out to being a bit more hardened and having a bit more cut about me, I think, after spending a year or two anyway. But Pamela, doing a bit of research into you, and I don't know if you realise this or not, but you have a fairly unique collection of medals in Camogie, including some competitions that don't even exist anymore. So you have the full set from Junior B, Junior A, Premier Junior and Intermediate. So all you're missing is the Senior. So knock that into the bag this year and away you go, the full collection.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It's a serious record.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I managed to find your results from the 2006 Junior B Championship.
Really?
And in the very first round of it, you lost to Monaghan by 2 goals to 3 points. Now tell me, that must have been a classic of a game.
Oh, God. I can't even remember that.
It's amazing, because everybody talks to it. Your story is phenomenal. You've gone from junior, Premier Junior to Senior in such a short time. But the reality, I suppose, is that if you just go back maybe 7 or 8 years before that, you've come from way further back than that.
Yeah, God, I think I mentioned after the final last year that when these championships started, it was only 1 day. So we trained for maybe a month, 6 weeks, and then 1 day, last one, that was it, done. And that isn't that long ago. I'd say 10, 11 years ago. And now it's gone into this full, a lot of people ask me, how have you played so long with county? But you never had to put in the commitment that you have to put in now. So it's not as great a feat as everybody thinks it is. But it was enjoyable the whole way up. I met some great people, great teams I played with.
Yeah. And Johnny, how did you get involved with the Camogie? I know the obvious link is there with Pam, but was that it? Or had you any real desire to get involved? Or were you roped in?
No, I suppose I don't know if it came by chance, but my first coaching experience was with the Camogie team in Harney here. So, and Pamela obviously was involved at that time as well. And I was still playing myself at the time. I was captain of the senior team. We were thereabouts with championships at the time as well. Having ding dong battles with Clonkill along the way. So, I took over that, and I kind of got Fiona Levy that played as well was part of that. I never forget this. There's a funny story about Fiona Levy. She was our centre back last year, our captain in 2017, and a brilliant personality, and a super person. But I won't name the selector or the person who told me back in the day that Fiona Levy would never make it. So we were just doing a drill. Fiona was predominantly a footballer at the time, but I kind of put her across into camogie anyway. But we're doing a little hand passing drill, but her movement and her awareness and everything else. And I seen something. I said, this girl has got something. But over a 5 or 6 year period, she developed her skill levels, and she captained Westmeath to a junior title in Crow Park. So just as you were saying, you can't always take one person's opinion. You have to make your own people going through, because if you took everything on board that everybody said, I don't think there'd be too many players playing camogie or hurling around.
No, that's for sure. No, and Fiona was an ex-UL stalwart as well, of course. So Pam, I was going to ask you how do you feel about Johnny taking over, but obviously I'd say you were probably half involved in getting him on board, were you?
Yeah, numerous phone calls. That's what I was in both cases, both for club and county. I think I must have haunted him for 3 months. Yeah, then eventually he gave in. And thankfully he gave in.
Luckily enough, and then one of my first experiences with him was Galway's second team down in Clonkill on a wintry February or March morning, getting the hockey in, and I was standing there scratching my head. I said, am I after putting myself in for a year? But I suppose then my history took over after that. So.
Yeah, and just suppose you weren't long getting the ship on the road. I suppose 2017. 2017 you got to the Premier Junior final and you won 110 to 6 points against Dublin. Even at that stage, I suppose, it wasn't an unbelievable performance. I suppose it's all about winning on the day, isn't it? There probably wasn't a sign even at that stage of what was to come from you so short time down the road. But I suppose after winning that day, was the temptation there to step away, Johnny? Did you kind of feel maybe that you had your job done to a certain extent, that you got him up and maybe it was time for someone else?
No, I don't think so, because I suppose the underage, there was players coming. Actually, again, another story on the same day. I think I said it to you the day in Crow Park, and when we beat Galway, the player of the match in the final against Galway, Megan Dowdle, was part of our backroom team as such. She was helping out in the dressing room and that. So we kind of brought a couple of younger girls along that day just to give them a taste of what it would be like. So I knew there was players of the quality coming through, and we had competed well enough right throughout at a higher level. And then when we went up, after winning the junior, we went into Division 2, and we really rattled a lot of teams and learned a lot going forward. So we played. You were coaching with Kilkenny at one stage. I remember in the Leinster Championship we were beaten by 30 points in Cusack Park, which was that was one of the reasons why we progressed and moved through the grade so quickly, because we were learning and playing at a higher grade, and sometimes you have to take beatings like that to be able to take a step forward. But no, I never really. I kind of had to grow up for it. I'm always the sort of fella apart from our Westmeath stint with Joe, we didn't get the time we probably deserved. But I think you can't really judge people on a year or 2 years. You have to give them a little bit of time, because if I had stepped away after year one, I don't think any manager really can do that. I think you have to look at it and assess it. And we grew the thing over the 3 or 4 years, but there was a huge transition of players as well. People forget that we're a small, as you know yourself, for being involved up here in Westmeath, we're a small little hurling pocket, and we need the best of from every club to be involved. And we had a huge transition from that junior final to the intermediate final. So a lot of really strong players, but the younger players came through, were brilliant.
Mm-hmm. And that's I suppose something about 2018, Pam. I suppose when you made the step up, you didn't get out of the group that year, but you were wicked young. I suppose, was 2018 demoralising for you, or could you see the same as what Johnny could see? Was that, look, we need to hang tough here, that there's a good young crop coming through?
Yeah, that would be it. And we've got so close in so many games in 2018. I think myself and Johnny were chatting earlier. It was kind of like the year of the 1 point losses. So we learned an awful lot from those games. And then it just the year, actually, in hindsight, of course we were devastated. Galway beat us down in Ballinasloe, I think, was it, John? By a point. We were devastated then, but the year helped us experience-wise. Even the young girls, I saw a huge difference who was already brilliant, Sheila, coming back then in 19, she was phenomenal. So the year definitely gave the team as a whole, a great experience and pushed us on for 2019.
Mm-hmm. And what was the goal at the start of 2019, Pam? I suppose like did you talk about winning All Irelands, or I suppose was it step by step kind of let's get out of the group and see where it takes us, or were you fully focused on going the whole way?
Being honest, fully focused. Like, you're going out there training, you're training hard. You want to get to the Croke Park, as Johnny said. We, from the very get-go, from the first training was just before championship, that was what we were discussing, Croke Park, getting there, what we need to do to get there. We looked at each match individually. We kind of didn't look further on than the match, but in all the back of our minds, we were thinking of Croke Park, and that's where we wanted to get to. And that drove us on, and mm-hmm. we learned an awful lot in that championship.
Yeah, and you got out of the group and up to Clonus, which is never a handy place to go, playing an Ulster team against Down. A cracking game, and I suppose unlike 2018, where maybe you kind of fell the wrong side of it, Johnny, a few times, you finally fell the wrong side of a tight one.
Yeah, definitely. We that game was the most nerve-wracking game I'd say out of, because we had so many 1-point losses in our journey together for over the 2 or 3 years that it was just. Like, I think the girl, did she miss a point? She missed a point in the last 2 minutes, and the year previous that would have went against us. So we put in the performance, but we always had a bit of luck on our side, and such a relief when that whistle was blown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I suppose in the run up to the final, Johnny, for your preparation, I suppose, if I'm not mistaken, I think you went up to Croke Park the week before, did you, for a bit of a look? But I suppose, how much of a help was it there to have been there before, I suppose, and maybe take the whole Croke Park experience out of the equation to focus on the game?
Yeah, it was good because we were there ourselves, with Joe and Westmeath, and kind of personally myself, that kind of helped as well. I haven't been in Croke Park as a player, but I've been there a few times as a manager locally, so it's great. It's a fantastic experience. But the preparation, I think a lot of girls, we have a sports psychologist with us, Paula Hearn, and like we did a lot of preparation on the mental side of things, preparing for the big day and the occasion, and and the way the game panned out. And I suppose me, myself, and yourself working together, you probably know me pretty well now at this stage, and it's always play to the final whistle and keep going. And that's something, like, if you want to go back to pre-winning the junior, I'll never forget this game in particular. We played Carlow down in Danesford. We were going by Carlow, we were managed by Mark Brennan at the time, and Mark was a great coach, and Carlow were flying along. We had a poor league. We got into a semi-final. We were one step away from Croke Park, a year earlier than we expected and hoped for. But I remember Fiona Levy, we talked about her earlier, got injured and had to be taken off. Carlow had a player sent off. We went into injury time, and we lost by a point. And I always go back to that game as a huge learning curve. And if you build through the years as we're going along, all those games were beaten by Cork in the Division 2 final by a point. We're beaten by a last-minute goal by Galway down at Pearse Stadium in the league by a point. We're beaten by Galway again in Ballinasloe by a point. So you keep going, but we built all this resilience and this kind of these learning curves, and we always look back to improve going forward, and that's what we did. Like, and our preparation was built towards that, especially on mental side, which was the massive part of it. We did a massive amount of work. Like, we had little booklets for the girls, we had signs, like we little videos, we had loads of little things to help the girls cope with the day. And maybe 20 minutes of the first half in the All-Ireland final, we performed, we're thereabouts, we scored the first couple of scores, and then we fell away slightly towards the end of the half. And then the second half, then we just a slight tactical adjustment. And to be honest, we moved 5 yards forward up the field, and the whole game changed. And I suppose if we were in the COVID era, I even found it last night with Fogs in the championship. This quarters, the 15-minute water break, it kind of goes for you and goes against you. Like, and I'm just saying, if that was back a year ago, or in Croke Park, Galway would have had maybe 15 minutes into the second half to readjust and change the game, and probably would have helped them going forward. But that's it's history the way it worked out, and it's just flowed through. And the girls had all that hurt, as I said after the game. We had a lot of hurt and near misses, and those 1-point losses, they were all in the locker. And I think that came through, that we weren't going to come out of Croke Park without that trophy.
Mm-hmm. And you make it sound so easy there, like, so we just moved 5 yards up the field, and then we came from 7 points down and we won. So it was grand. But like you said yourself there, look, Joe, we lost the McDonagh final there in June, and like, you know, like Maeve Scally's on a yellow, you know, early doors, you're 7 points down, Galway are flying it. Like, surely it wasn't just a case of, I'm going to ask Pam this now. So what was the dressing room? What was the dressing room actually like at half time? Was it, okay, girls, all we need to do now is move 5 yards up the field, or was he tearing the paint off the walls? What was it really like in there?
He was actually very, very level-headed, which I was surprised with, to be honest with you. Because sometimes we'd be in the dressing rooms, so we'd be on a time, and Johnny go on a rant, and I'd be like, oh God, John, we have to go. You'd be thinking. But you're right, he was actually completely, the girls, first of all, were so quiet, weren't they? They were really quiet, and then he just came in, said what he said. I can't even remember what he said. And we went out, and it was just, I don't know, a different team turned up. It was the team that we had in our training matches, that we were training to be, just make sure we had the ball, and once we had the ball, they could do nothing with it. And we kind of just, were we a little bit possessed going out in the second half?
Slightly, yeah. I would say.
You were.
You know, and I'll put this down as well because, you know, as regards to preparation, and we did it with Westmeath when we were there, Sully as well, and you know, the half time is really, really important, and we worked on that not just in training. We worked on it in our league phase. Like, we had a half time protocol. I'm not giving away secrets or anything, I'm sure every team does it, but we had a kind of staged half time, you know, 15-minute half time, 10-minute half time. You know, we didn't want the girls going in and speaking. You know yourself, sometimes you go in after a poor performance in the first half and people just speak for the sake, they feel they have to speak. So we just felt, you know, you don't speak unless it's going to be something constructive. Don't expend energy that you don't need to expend. We wanted people to be just settle down, relax, and then the leaders took over. One in particular, Michelle Murta, who was her first year with us, and she's a huge character in the team, and you can go through that later in his personality, but she's fantastic. And she stood up and spoke because Paul always went in beforehand, and we held back for about 3-4 minutes, and we did a bit of a chat outside and did our tactical tweaks, and then Paul went inside and surveyed the dressing room, and then we came in and we just went up for our tactics board and we just moved things about a little bit and gave a bit of direction to a couple of players. There was no killing. We just go. We knew. I literally knew because it was in the locker that we could turn this around. And basically, you said about Maeve. I don't think Maeve had to make a tackle in the second half. So luckily enough, but like that's the way it goes. And sometimes, you know, if you read some of the books, you know, what you call them, the coach over in America, the basketball coach, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he, you know, his whole protocol was
John Wooden,
yeah, that's exactly who it was. So like something like that was the kind of the stage, player-led, you know what I mean, let the players say what they need to say, and when the leaders step up, generally that's when the whole team rises to that level. So that's what happened.
And look, you definitely, like, you gave one of the all-time great Croke Park performances in the second half. Like, it just couldn't have gone any better. It was just, must have been very satisfying, I suppose. Because you know yourself as a coach, look, sometimes you get these performances in the wrong places. You know, you can get them in Kinnegad on a Sunday morning, or you can get them above in Athlone on a Wednesday evening against, you know, in a red versus white game. But for it to unfurl, I suppose, when you need it the most on the national stage in Croke Park, and to get over the line, I suppose, like, when the full-time whistle went, Pam, like, you know, you've brothers in the management team, your family in the stand, and everything's just it's a real special day, I presume.
Oh God, yeah, it was just so special, and even just taking it all in. I've watched it a couple of times since, and just the relief, number one. But then, like, I found this time my second experience in Croke Park to be a lot more positive, even though both were wins, and I'm very lucky for that. But the fact that we were able to mingle with everybody, go around the crowd, and get to see who come up to see us play, it was such a special moment, and one I'll remember forever.
And I suppose we've been in Croke Park as well. I know it's controversial at the moment. I suppose the Bourke Association have come out and taken the intermediate final away from Croke Park. Like, having it in Croke Park, of course, adds to the occasion, doesn't it? It's just such a special place. Would it have taken from it slightly if that was a game that was played in, I suppose, Westmeath and Galway would have been played in maybe Bourke or somewhere like that? Like, does it add to the occasion to have it in Croke Park?
It definitely does, and I think it adds to the determination, to the effort. It does add a little bit, whether it's only 3%, but it gives people, everybody's dream. Anybody who plays any kind of GAA, that's their dream, to play in Croke Park. So you are going to be driven that little bit more. And I suppose this year it's unfortunate with the circumstances that not all the three finals are going to be up there. And because last year was such a great year, like, and the numbers were up, and like there's huge work being done on the media side of the camogie, that people are coming to watch us play now. So that is a pity this year.
I think you get so few opportunities as players to play there. Like I was just thinking about it there. Like some of the best players I've ever seen, say, like Beth Carton has played in Croke Park once, and it was in the intermediate final when they won. You know, and Niamh Mulcahy has played twice in 2013 and 14 in the intermediate finals. You know, so it's not just a case of sure, look, it's the intermediate final. Like for so many players, that's the pinnacle of the career, and it's the one chance to get there. It's such a shame that it's not going to be there. But look, I suppose that's just the way it is for this year, isn't it? It's a shame, but look, I suppose you did a lovely interview on the pitch after, so that's something that you'll always have as well. Johnny, you made the Jim Gavin comment. Like for me, knowing you, I didn't take much notice of it. I thought it was fairly tame, but you got a bit of flack. You got a bit of flack online after.
I did, yeah. So I suppose I got a little bit of it, and then to go up and to manage a team in Dublin, I suppose I wasn't really different a month walking into Falls up there. But anyway, look at it. It was look at it. You know me. I was just I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I just one of these fellas. I look at a Sunday game or I look at a match of telly, and I loved seeing Liam Sheedy and he leapt off the line, and Cody with his head red, and the passion and the pride. I just feel we're all in it for this adrenaline rush, and that feeling it gives for that passion that you feel. And I just Jim is fantastic, absolutely unbelievable. What he's achieved is phenomenal. But I just love him to burst it in the forehead for 5. Let a bit of emotion out. I know the chance is gone now for that, but some of his teams will play such unbelievable stuff. I leapt out of the top tier of the stand, I wouldn't hold back. I'd be the first man out in the field, but that's everybody's different, and it's just at the time I was kind of sick of looking at these mundane kind of interviews and the same spiel coming out, and I just went for what was in my heart and in my head at the time, and I just said what I had to say, and I suppose I wasn't the flavour of the month up here in Dublin, so I had to leave it a month or two before I went back.
I thought it was tame enough. I just kept thinking back to the morning in the Carrickdale when we had the meeting before we played Antrim in Dunloy, and the speech you gave that day had me so wound up. One stage in the first half, Neil McManus asked me for a drink of water, and I thought, the fuck off. And there was a row. And next thing I see Gary, remember the clip of Gary dunking your man out over the fucking sideline and fist pumping him. I was like, that's what the Grevilles are really like. This is tame stuff. So I just didn't understand it, but I suppose you could see it could be seen as controversial enough, I suppose, if the outsiders were looking in, But I suppose, Pam, when it started to sink in, what you'd achieved, what was the kind of the main talking point? Was it the fact that you'd won the intermediate title, or that you were going to be senior in 2020? What was the main chat amongst the playing group?
Yeah, I suppose a bit of both. More so as senior, we've always wanted any team wants to play senior. You want to get up to the top level. So it was a bit daunting. It's a bit daunting to think of, but we achieved it. I suppose about 4 years ago, everybody has their dreams. Some of them are overstretched, some of them are realistic. But ours was to make senior. So I think me and you were having a chat, John, when I was trying to plumb off some to train us, and I was telling them that the ability is in Westmeath. It's just we're not getting to maximise it, and that I believe that we could win the junior within a year or two, and we'd win the intermediate within a year or two, because I felt that bringing in Johnny would bring the belief and bring the players along with it. So look, that's what we aimed for 4 years ago, and then that's literally what we got. And it's very seldom people get it, but we're lucky enough to be up playing senior this year.
Absolutely, and look, you have Kilkenny in the group, and you mentioned there, Johnny, that game I was involved in. It wasn't quite as bad as what you made out, although maybe in the lead up to the intermediate final it was 30 points, or you might say in the dressing room before you play Kilkenny this year it was 35. But I just dug out the stats just out of pure curiosity. Okay, so in that game, the Intermediate Championship finished up 6-9 to 7 points. Right, so that was Kilkenny's second team, 20-point beating. And the really interesting thing is, out of those two teams, 6 of the Westmeath team that started that day started in Croke Park in September, but only 2 of that Kilkenny team have had a single minute of senior championship afterwards for Kilkenny. So that is an incredible turnaround when you think of the beating that team gave you and where you have gone now. If you'd have told me that day walking out of Cusack Park that 6 of the Westmeath team would play senior and only 2 of the Kilkenny team would even get a sniff of it, I would have thought you were absolutely off your game. Yeah. But it's a crazy stat. The 6 for the record were Fiona Keating, Fiona Levy, Myrne Scally, Quiv McCrossan, Mairead McCormick and Pamela. They were the 6 that played that day. and the two Kilkenny girls are Katie Nolan and geez, I don't have the second one actually, but there's two of them. Yeah, they played. So it's very interesting, isn't it? Just the way things go. Like, you know, it's, you have to stick with it, as you said, isn't it? It's really, really interesting. But I suppose, like you mentioned the hurlers there, Johnny, and look, you know, I suppose we didn't get the time we liked, or I suppose no real point going into it now. It is what it is. It's gone. But was there a small bit of an extra satisfaction for yourself personally to kind of go, look, did it put it to bed a little bit, I suppose? Look, you know, maybe you felt hard done by with the hurlers, and to get the girls over the line at Croke Park then was a little reminder to everyone in Westmeath that you haven't gone away, you're still a man.
No, not really. You know, the year we had, and I said it several times, was really enjoyable. I enjoyed it the whole, even though I was involved in the 20s, involved with Joe as selector and doing the camogie as well. But when I think back on it, you know, it didn't feel like any pressure at all. I enjoyed the whole experience. You know, I look at Westmeath are in a funny place now at the moment, and look, I'll probably go on record as saying it's another controversial thing, but you know, it's probably a job that doesn't interest me in the future. You know, just from my own perspective, I was in with Joe, I was in before as well with Brian Hanley, and you know, went for it a couple of times as well, and you know, there was reasons I didn't get, were down to personal, you know, club politics and this sort of stuff. So look, I'm a Hardy man, but I'm also a Westmeath man, and you know, as Pamela probably tell you with the camogie, and you've probably seen as well, I no allegiance, you know, like the best players play, and that's it. The camogie there, for example, like for Hardy, like the Westmeath team, you know, we're not over dependent on Hardy. We're delighted to have the 5 or 6 that are there. Like, you know, like I spoke there during the week as well about, you know, 2 counties that have kind of fallen away. Like we would have had great battles with them, you know, in the early years, like Kildare and Carlow, like, and both were over reliant maybe on the Michael in Carlow and the Johnstone Bridge in Kildare, and both counties fell away. Like, you know, Carlow would have had Mark Brennan over them at the time, who was an excellent manager. In Kildare, I remember we played them in Newbridge, and Denny Cahill over them, you know. So they had the coaches. There wasn't the buy-in from the you know, the clubs, and
it's thin margins, isn't it? It's thin lines. Like the year we won it with Kilkenny, we beat Kildare in the semi-final below Nina, and I was only actually talking to Ger Walsh about it below Thomastown last night. We played with a wind in the first half, likes you never see, and we went in 9-8 up at half time. And I remember Mick Wall saying to me at half time, Ger gave a Johnny Greville speech, tore the strips off the walls, the girls went out bouncing, and Mick turned around to me and says, "Are we in trouble here?" And I just looked at him, "Can you be fucking sure of it, lad? We're a point up after playing with that." And we held on. We actually destroyed them in the second half. 1-0 Ireland after. That they're the thin margins. Like, if they'd have gone on, they could have been senior. It could literally have changed the whole course of the game within the company. And now, as you say, it's gone because, look, whether it's been neglected or whatever, it's amazing how just tight those margins are.
The margins are so tight, like, you know, and it's you know, look at Antrim, similar to that. Like, we would have came across them a good bit over the years as well, and like some super players, but again, just not fulfilling the potential at a county level. Like down last year in the semi-finals, you know, they had an air about them. You know, I think they felt that it was their God-given right to get to a final again, and I think that was their downfall overall. I think they had Croke Park. They were in Croke Park before that game, and that cost them in the end. You know, but like we beat them by 30 points, 35 points in the league. They got a hard field 18 months previous to that. Up in Georgetown here in Raharney, and they got, you know, and I couldn't fathom how that could happen, and then to have the turnaround then to beat Tipperary and Kinnegad the same summer to get to Croke Park. And then, you know, so like as you said, the margins are so tight, so all it takes is maybe one person, you know, just to knit it together and bring it forward. So, you know, camogie is at a stage where, you know, it does need the national backing from the Camogie Association right through, like in all these counties. Like Carlow, I've gone way back to the Carlow. Armagh, we only beat Armagh by a point in the semi-final up in Cavan, you know, to get to an All-Ireland, the junior final. Like, and they haven't gone forward since. You know, it's just those little things. I feel camogie is getting really strong at the top, and then there's a middle group, and then everybody else is kind of yo-yoing up and down, like, you know.
Yeah, no, look, it depends on the personnel you get involved as well. Look, out blowing smoke, like the girls were lucky in Westmeath to get you involved. I think Galway had gone through, I suppose Galway are a prime example. They'd gone through a few tricky years until they got Cahill involved. I suppose Cahill's background was obviously winning the senior championship at Sarsfield. So I think, if teams are lucky to get lads in who have, I suppose, done it at the highest level of hurling, that are willing to give their time and organisation to the camogie, that can make a massive difference as well. But yeah, it is thin lines. I suppose it does sadden me a little bit to hear that you don't want the Westmeath hurling job, to be honest, because two of the biggest winners I've ever come across, yourself and Kevin O'Brien, just in the last year, I got a serious insight into Kevin and Clonkill and yourself and Westmeath. I think the way forward for Westmeath hurling is to get the best Westmeath people involved with the Westmeath teams at all levels. And I suppose they have gone that way with Kevin now, getting them in with the 20s. But you might reconsider in time. I suppose I kind of maybe feel the same about Limerick Camogie. I'm saying I'd never again get involved. So I feel kind of the same way about the county board there that you do maybe in Westmeath. But maybe down the line you just don't know. Things change, I suppose. But I think yourself and Kev and Brendan Murtagh would be a serious trio to have in the line. I wouldn't be messing with any of the three, that's for sure. But I suppose on to 2020 then, we touched on it there briefly. You've Kilkenny, Limerick and Waterford in the group. Okay, an interesting mix, I suppose. Johnny, I know it's not your style to just go out and take part, but without giving away the trade secrets, what does success look like for Westmeath this year?
Well, I suppose the Camogie Association have kind of taken away the threat. Maybe there's no promotion, no relegation, so it takes away that pressure. But it also takes away maybe a little bit of competitiveness as well, because at the back of your mind, it's our target will be a quarter final. I'm not going to lie about it, and I don't know whether I'm meant to say it, but the draft fixtures come out today. I know you've probably seen them yourself. We've got Limerick, potentially in the first game away, Kenny away in the second game, and Waterford at home in the last game. So look, it depends on how we come back as well. The club championship kicked off on Wednesday night here in Westmeath, and we've a lot of girls that are working the front line as well. And as I said to you before, and yourself, we need everybody to be competitive. And whether some of these players might opt out, we don't know yet. We're not due back onto collective training until the 14th of September. So over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll find out where that comes, and then that will probably determine where we'll end up, really. But to play Limerick in Limerick is fantastic. Waterford as well at home, and Kilkenny, second year in a row to play them away. We learned a lot from last year, and the girls will only grow for it. So we're probably lucky we got an opportunity now for a dress rehearsal for 2021 to get that bedding, because I
free shot at it, more or less.
That's the thing. Look at Meath, Meath, it was a yo-yo system. I call it this. It's just not to go up. They were fatigued from the year before. They beat Cork in a replay in the Gaelic grounds, and then went up senior, and then just basically, the beaters that were getting knocked the confidence out of them, and they came straight back down. And now they're probably one of the favourites there to come out of the intermediate if they can get out of that group. And only one team comes out, and got Cork in it as well. But if they go up again, I think it should be a 2-year stint at least to be up, and to just make just a bed-in period in the first year, and then to give it a good, to get that progress. So
it's a huge step up, isn't it? I know in the Cork Senior Football Championship, if you win the Premier Intermediate, you get minimum 2 years up. Give yourselves a chance to bed in. We went up in 2014. We were lucky in a way because we'd been playing Division 1 for 2 years before we went up, so it wasn't as big a step. But even at that, it was we were a bit naive. We were talking about winning the All-Ireland and this and that. So we were nowhere near it realistically, but we managed to win another game or two, and that's not unachievable. My 2 big predictions last year, I was talking about Westmeath winning the Intermediate Championship for the whole round of the year. I called it right from the start, so I'm taking that one, right? But you mentioned Antrim there. I think Antrim have really got their act together this year. They had the 2 boys over them that won a couple of Christie Rings with Antrim when the Christie Ring was the second tier. They got them up into the Lee McCarthy, and they gave out some outrageous beatings in the league. So I think they could be a really dangerous team in the intermediate. My other prediction is that Westmeath are going to win a game in the group, and I'm not just saying that because you're on here. I think you could take Limerick, and I'm probably going to get shot for saying that, but that's my outside tip for the year, right? So I don't know, the Limerick, Paul Sexton might be nailing that now to the dressing room wall, but I think that's a realistic goal for the talent that you have, and I suppose I know the organisation and the setup that you're bringing to it. I suppose, Pam, amongst the playing group now, without putting Johnny's nose out of joint, what's the chat amongst yourselves? Realistically, what are you hoping to achieve?
hoping we'd be the same. I suppose we met up back in January, wasn't it? Or January or so. And look, every year we set a target for us, and that's our aim through the whole thing. We kind of put it to the back of our head. So the quarter final is the one that we'd be looking for. We'd be looking to come second in that group.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, so we have a few questions for you. We got a serious response. Some we can call out and some we can't call out. You can ask Mairead McCormack to text you the one she sent in herself. But if we want to avoid going the way of Tampax, we won't be reading out Mairead McCormack's question online here. From Aoife O'Leary to you, Pam, who were your idols growing up in the game?
That is a funny one for me because I wouldn't have had that many. These boys. So my brothers. So basically, it was all about trying to beat them. So when we were out practicing, it was all about beating them. So it was more I looked up to my family than anybody specifically.
Very good. From Zita Dowdle out in Clonkill, I'll give this one to you, Jenny. You've been involved in the game a long time. What keeps you going? What keeps you motivated?
I said it earlier on. Is that after the COVID thing, and we got back playing. It was that first championship match that I got involved with this year. Just brought it all back. It's that rush, that adrenaline, first hook or block, to see players to, go out and implement something that you've been practicing on the training ground, and for to work out, or for the players just to play to their potential and to come off with a smile and, come off the pitch with a smile on their face. That ultimately is the biggest attraction, the reason why I'm still involved. And I just love, the adrenaline rush and just the enjoyment levels.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely, I'd agree with you 100%. I feel the exact same way. I'm going to give this one to you again, Johnny. I suppose this from Ellen Shaw, or physio buddy. How did training change from junior to senior? Was there a noticeable change in it? From your approach first of all, but maybe from the girls' approach as well.
Yeah, I did. It was a massive change. Like every year we would have stepped it up. I suppose the most difficult thing in camogie to coach, and you probably know this yourself, is the tactical side of things. Because when you give direction to the girls, it's basically lines. They'll go by that line. It's called a tactical sports syndrome. So the biggest thing I found was trying to break down that tactical sports syndrome and bring the fluidity into the movements to get those things working on the pitch rather than going by what they perceive as the vision that they seen on a tactics board or on a video clip. So that's what would have changed from junior up. We would have added slowly all of those things, bringing in the video analysis every year. Then we stepped it up a level every single year. So on the same this year, we step things up every year. So it's about adding to make sure that we get to the closest we can to the top at the level you're at.
Very good. And the last one was from Rory Farrell. We've already answered this. Do you think you have a chance in senior? And I'll answer that one for you. The Grevilles always think they have a chance. That's the beauty. That's what I've learned over the years. Doesn't matter what the opposition is. So we'll answer that one for Rory Farrell without asking you. So look, guys, that's it. We're going to wrap it up here. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how you get on the senior. I've been there, made that step up. It's difficult, but it's not as daunting as it may seem once you cross that white line. So the very best of luck to you for the year ahead, and thanks very much for joining us.